decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back. No turning back. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back. No turning back. Decided to follow Jesus. No turning back. No turning.
We'll try again. Good morning. Good morning. All right. We're just going to begin. I have a question for you. Has anyone ever wanted to be great at something? It's a fair question, right? I don't think we ever wake up, like when we're younger and be like, I want to be average, right? I'm just like, I just want to just get by, kind of thing. Most of us, when we wake up, when we're younger, we want to be great at whatever the thing is. Whatever we're passionate about, we want to be great at it. We're not like, so for me, like I love basketball. I wasn't like, okay, I just want to just make the team. Like I wanted to be the best, right? And I think even when it comes to, like, even as we get older, it's kind of the same thing. I like to shop. I'm not a stereotypical male. Like, I like to shop, and I like to shop for myself. I don't really care to shop for other people. Because first of all, I don't want to get them something wrong, but also if I have money, I want to spend it on myself. And so when I go shopping, like, I like to get whatever money I have, the best of whatever I can afford, okay? I don't like to go, okay, what is the worst thing I can get for my money, okay? And we do this even with our cars, whatever our financial situation is when we can afford a car. We get the best car we can with the money that we have. Nobody ever, unless you're really good at fixing things up, you buy the worst possible car with the amount of money that you have. Same thing when it comes to house, unless you're good at flipping things, right? But for the most part, when you have a lot of, whatever you're passionate about, whatever you're great at, you want the best of the best. Also, when it comes to healthcare, like if you're struggling in something health related, do you ever go to a friend and say, hey, what is the worst doctor possible? Does anybody ever do that? Like, who is the most average doctor? I want to go see that guy, right? Like, we don't do that. We want the best doctor possible. We don't want the guy that just got the C, in class. He just barely made it through med school. Now, again, for me, when I was younger, like I said, I wanted to play basketball. I felt like that was what I was gifted at. That's what I was supposed to do. When I was in fifth grade, I was 5'7", 5'8". I was pretty tall for my age, and I thought I would continue getting taller. And then I grew 2 more inches, and that was it. And so everybody started passing me up. But so much so that when I was in 5th and 6th grade, when I was supposed to be listening to Mr. Morris as he's teaching us, I have my pad of paper out, and I'm actually drawing an NBA draft board. Yes, that was me. I was that kid. So I'm drawing an NBA draft board, and of course I put me as a #1 pick, and I was drafted by my hometown Chicago Bulls, okay? And when I would draw myself, I would be like, of course, ripped. I mean, whoever wants to draw themselves as a stick figure. And so I'm ripped, I'm like jumping, I'm dunking over people. I was the greatest athlete ever drawn, okay? And so, but anyways, like that's what I wanted to be. That's what I thought I was gifted for, was to play basketball. And I would be drafted by the Bulls, like I said, and I would be number 24 because I would just be a notch better than Michael Jordan. That's what I really thought I was created to do. But can I ask you a question? When we think about being great, why do we automatically go to significance? When we think about greatness, we automatically shift to significance. We think greatness means being important. We think greatness means like having financial whatever. We think greatness is life-changing. We think greatness is about prestige and honor. And it's not like those things aren't great, but that's where our mind automatically goes to. And oftentimes we think of it as a career. When you ask a young person what do they want to be when they grow up, they sometimes say, I don't know what I want to be, but I want to make a lot of money, right? And even for us adults, when we think of somebody that has honor or prestige or importance, we think of like a doctor, a lawyer. You know, it always goes to a career. It hardly ever goes to the person. It goes to a job. And so greatness isn't about a career. It isn't about clothes. It isn't about a car. It isn't about like going to the nicest restaurant. Like those are good things, but that's not the idea of greatness. And so Jesus is traveling with a group of disciples. It's when I teach teenagers and kids, I say it's his friends because that's who they were. They were his friends. And Jesus is walking with a group of his friends, and there's a little argument that kind of happens as Jesus is leading between the disciples. And when my wife and I were first married, we never argued, but we had emotional discussions, right? We didn't call it arguing. We were having an emotional discussion right now. And I have a lot of emotions about this. So, but they were having this discussion that breaks out. And so in Mark chapter 9, if you have your Bibles with you, I encourage you to open them and flip to it. I also encourage you to take notes, because oftentimes we remember the random thing. We don't always remember the thing that we're supposed to remember the most. And so this is where we're at. We're in Mark chapter 9, verses 33 through 34. It says, after they arrived at Capernaum, because they were traveling to Capernaum, and they settled in the house, Jesus asked the disciples, what were you discussing about on the road? But they didn't answer, because they had been arguing about which of them was the greatest. So we're going to look at 7 verses today, and in those 7 verses, we're going to see 2 things. The first thing we're going to see is the argument. The argument. Jesus begins by asking a question that he already knows an answer to. Now, as a parent, isn't this your favorite question to ask your kids, right? Like, you know the answer, you're just curious if they're going to tell you what the answer is, the truth, right? And so Jesus knows exactly what is happening, so he asks a question, and he's waiting for them to respond. And then sure, like unapologetic fashion, the disciples choose not to say anything, as if Jesus is supposed to be reflective and then think, well, maybe I didn't hear what I thought I heard, right? Like, maybe they weren't saying anything. I was just a thing that was going on in my brain. This is what their approach was. But Jesus knew exactly what was happening, exactly what they were talking about, whether they would respond to the question or not. Now, when we look at the disciples, it's very easy to criticize them, to think, man, why didn't you step up? Why didn't you just say what you had been arguing about? And you can look at other stories with the disciples and be like, man, they kept failing. They kept messing up again and again and again. But if you think about it, if you think about this specific story, we're kind of similar to the disciples here. Like, we've been following Jesus for a while. If you've crossed that line of faith, you've been following Jesus for a while, and you're thinking to yourself, you know, when are things going to line up for me? When am I going to be great? When am I going to, when I choose to follow you, place my hope and trust in you, and I thought by now, for us people who may be single in here, like maybe I would have a spouse by now, but it hasn't happened for me. That thought by now, like you would bless me with the things that I thought I would be blessed with. I mean, all these other people have blessings, but I don't. And I thought by following you that I would eventually be great. Like, I haven't even led a TED Talk yet. And I think, like, what's going on here? You see, each of us want an immediate recognition, but we don't want the journey to get there. Each of us in this room have had this happen. No matter our age or demographic, nothing. It doesn't matter. We've all had this thought that we want the destination. We just don't want the path to get to the destination. Now, I've been married for 22 years. And in my 22 years of marriage, I've only been right about 3 times. True story. So if you are single in this room or you're not married yet, be prepared. You're a male. Be prepared. You're wrong all the time, okay? you're just wrong, okay? And but there is this one time I was right, this one time. And because of this one time I've been right, I've reminded my wife constantly that I was right this one time. And she said, one time out of a million's nothing to brag about. But anyways, this one time I was right was when we were younger, we would travel on our vacations. And when we were first living here in Des Moines, because I spent a time here in Des Moines, my parents lived in Illinois, and so we would travel to Des Moines in a car. And then at some point they moved down to Florida, and so we would travel by car there. And then eventually we moved out to Oregon, and we would come back to Iowa to visit. We go on vacation. Yes, people do vacation to Iowa. It's kind of weird, but we would vacation to Iowa. That was supposed to be a joke. And so we would vacation. I can tell you're true Iowans. You're like, what's wrong with Iowa? But anyways, like we would vacation to Iowa, and my wife would think that vacation starts when we arrived at our destination. And we would do whatever we can to get there as soon as possible so the vacation can begin. And the one argument that I won, the one argument is I said vacation starts when we close the door and we head out. That's when vacation begins. So no matter your age, your ethnicity, your background, your financial stability or lack thereof, no matter of all of those things, greatness isn't defined by your status. It's not defined by your bank account. For you graduates in this room or watching online, your greatness isn't defined by what college you go to or what college you do not go to, or even if you choose to go to college. Your greatness isn't defined in all of those things, and so often in America we think it is, but it's not. You see, we are on a lifelong journey with Jesus, and it is long. And it can be hard. Use an $8 word. It's arduous. It's difficult. There are definitely moments when there's joy and happiness and triumphs and victories. There's definitely all of those things that happen, but it can be hard. But let's pause on this thought of rushing to be great. Let's enjoy being in the presence with Jesus. Now, what I find very humorous with these disciples is they're having an argument about who's the greatest, all the while they're traveling with Jesus, the author of life. They're having this argument with. Now, I know the reason why they're having the argument because Jesus is the king, and then they're arguing about who sits next to him and all this kind of stuff. But this idea of I'm the greatest, kind of thing is kind of weird, isn't it? The guy who spoke the life into existence holds it in the palm of his hand. Like this guy, they're having this argument about him. Talk about low EQ. They can't read a room or a path at this point, right? The creator of the universe. But don't we all do this? We all get lost in our own thoughts, our own feelings, our own emotions. Like, I thought things and I don't know why, and we get so caught up in all of that we forget who we're traveling with, Jesus. And one thing I have learned, and it's something I have to continually to remind myself, is the more that I focus on Jesus, the less I'm concerned about my own greatness. The less I'm concerned about what's in it for me, the more I just want to be with him. Now, we've been here back in Iowa now we're in May, so about 5 months, I guess now. We moved back in January. And some people have came up and they asked, of all the places you ended up going, what led you to Altoona, Iowa? And, the easy answer, the cop-out answer is God, like that's just the answer, clearly was. But to kind of give you more of a detail on how we ended up here. About a little over 8 years ago, we moved out to Oregon. God opened a spot for us, and it felt like this was our next spot. So we ended up in Oregon in a really small community, a community of only 8,000 people. So I grew up around Chicago, but in Rockford, Illinois, so a pretty populous area. My wife grew up here in Des Moines, a pretty populous area. And then we moved, of all places, to a town of 8,000, so pretty kind of culture shock. So we showed up in Sutherland at a church called Family Church. And it was a good church, enjoyed it. It was a church of multiple locations. And I was the youth pastor when I first started there. And I only worked as the youth pastor at one campus. And then within a year, I became the family pastor for Family Church. And during that time, things were just great. I felt like this is where we're going to be. I'm going to retire here. I don't have any plans of doing anything else. We started with the youth group, about 30-ish or so, and then by the time we had left, we were running 100 kids every weekend. We had a kids ministry that started on a Wednesday night with just really a small group, about 20, 25 kids. We ended with 65 or 70 kids each Wednesday night, and most of those kids were unchurched, or a term called de-church, where they used to go to church, no longer do, or their families. And so it was just an outreach to the community. I was in the schools. I was leading Bible studies in school in the state of Oregon. I was leading Bible studies. God was just blessing the things that we were a part of. The last 4 years, we baptized 85 teenagers. Teenagers that are crossing the line of faith. They want to go public with their faith. I was a fire chaplain in the community I lived in, and I felt like this is our forever, and I see God blessing everything. If I were to define greatness, or define like what I thought was amazing, it was what I was able to be a part of with Jesus. And then on last summer, we're driving back, and my daughter asked me a question when we got into Iowa, because we vacationed to Iowa, and she asked, "When are we going to move back to Iowa?" That was her question. My answer was, we're not. This is our home. Oregon's our home. Like, I'm teaching once a month, like on the stage on Sunday morning. Like, this is, like, I see like a future. Like, this is our home. Iowa's a place we'll visit. So we spent our week and a half, 2 weeks here, and it was great. It was fun. And then we start leaving, and we get towards Council Bluffs, and my daughter asked me a question. "Dad, when are we moving back to Iowa?" And I said, "Nobody ever wants to move to Iowa." And that question just stuck with me. So I continued serving and doing the things that I felt I was called to do, and loving the community I was in. And then in the fall time, it was probably about September, October, we started getting news about nothing terrible, tragic, bad, immoral, wrong, nothing like that, but just some things that were happening in our family back here in Iowa that was concerning. But it was like, God's going to take care of it, no big deal. But that question wouldn't leave me. And then in November, I got a phone call from our closest friends about some tragic things that are going on. We're listening to this phone call. We're FaceTiming them. And my wife and I were in our bedroom. And we hang up the phone. And during that phone call, I said, "God, I'll go wherever you want me to go." And we hang up the phone call, and I held Nicole because she begins to cry. And I said, "It's okay, we're going to move back." In the midst of her crying, she goes, "What?" I said, "It's okay, we'll move back." And so that next week, I resigned from a position I never thought I would resign from. And when they would ask me, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know," because at that time, that was November. I didn't even know about Trinity on 5th. We just trusted in God that he's going to provide, and I just want to be in his presence. And then December, connected with this church, and it's been a great fit, and we just love it. But I got to the point of understanding it's not about my accomplishments. This is not about what I think is great. It's just being with Jesus. That's what greatness is. Trust that he's going to open the right doors. When I look at this story with Jesus and his disciples, Jesus doesn't say their pursuit of greatness is wrong. He doesn't say that the pursuit of greatness is sinful. He doesn't say anything, but what he does do, he changes their thought pattern. Because what he does, he grabs the 12 disciples and he sits them down and he says, "Whoever wants to be first must be last and a servant of everyone else." Then he grabs a little child and he places the child between him and the disciples. And he says, "Anyone who welcomes a little child like this on my behalf, welcome me. And anyone who welcomes me, not only welcomes me, but the one who sent me, my Father who sent me." So the second thing we see is the response. The response. What I love, again, is that Jesus doesn't tell them that they're wrong in this like attitude of excellence. He doesn't get after them for that. For us, we think greatness is all about achievement and all about having recognition and people seeing us and knowing us. That's what we think greatness is. And that's why for so many young people, social media is so big, because when they post something, whether it's a picture or whatever, they like to see how many people liked it, how many people are following them, anybody else like, all this kind of, like they get this initial gratification from being great. Here's the problem, is when we want the approval of others, their approval becomes primary, not Jesus. But Jesus says, he says, whoever wants to be first must take last place and be the servant of everyone else. Jesus is describing himself. In the very next chapter, in chapter 10, verses 43 through 45, Jesus again kind of expounds on this thought. He says, whoever wants to be a leader among you must be a servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must be the slave of everyone else. And I love verse 45. He says, for even the Son of Man, he's talking about himself, came not to be served, but to serve others, and then to give up his life as a ransom for many. So in summary, if you want to be great, you must be willing to be a servant. So the question for you, I like questions, because questions are very like, okay, where am I at in this? Do you see yourself there? Do you see yourself as a servant? So Jesus then takes a child and places the child between him and the disciples. But why a child? Children are cute, they're fun, they have so much energy. They're the exact opposite of me. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I'm just tired, right? And for them, you give them chocolate, they get like hyper. For me, I get chocolate, I get sleepy. Like, that's a great feeling. Kids, wait for it. It's going to be amazing. But they're the exact opposite. But why did Jesus grab a child? Because in Jesus' day, children were seen as a consumer, not a producer. Meaning this, they had no value. They had no value. They didn't bring anything in the family. They didn't bring anything in the community. They had no value. There was someone that you had to take care of. They weren't somebody that's going to take care of you. You see, greatness isn't found in your accomplishments or thinking you're better than other people. Greatness is found in your service to others. That is greatness. For you graduates in here, greatness is found in how you serve others, not being served. So, do you serve those around you? Your employees or your employers, your friends and your family, your siblings, your parents, your neighbors. How about those who think differently than you? This one's a little hard. How about those who vote differently than you? How are you at serving people that maybe are less fortunate than you? How differently would your life be if you pursued greatness by humbling yourself? I think one of the most humbling positions or jobs, if you want to say, is a full-time mom or a full-time dad. Now, I can say this because I have firsthand knowledge of what it's like to be a full-time dad. I remember there was about a year and a half of Nicole and I being married where we swapped roles, where I came home full-time to take care of Paxton, our youngest at the time. He was a baby. He's 13 now. And Nicole went to work full-time. And I remember when we kind of talked about this, I thought, that sounds pretty good to me. I was an idiot, right? I had no idea how much stuff you do, okay? Laundry never ends. It never ends. It's always, which is good because then the alternative, anyways. But like, did you catch that? Should I say it slower? Okay. But like it never ends. There's always cleaning to do. There's always things you have to do. There's no like sitting. I enjoy working in an office. I sit a lot. I enjoy that. But here's the thing. I think it's a humbling position. It's a humbling job because you have to take care of them when they can't take care of themselves. You have to feed them constantly. Where's Davis at? Constantly. He's visiting us. He eats so much. He tried the Adam Emenecker. He failed, but he ate way more than most people ever would consume. But like, they eat constantly. And one thing about kids, you can't talk down to them, you talk at them, meaning you have to get to their level. So no matter how well your back feels or your knees feel, you get down to their level and play with them. And as they start growing up, you begin to argue with them or have playful discussions with them about when nap time is or bedtime. And as they continue to grow, and you have to teach them how to read and how to write and how to do math. It's a job that just continues to go on and on. And they continue to grow, and they find other activities or things that they're into. And you constantly teach them. My kids were into baseball, and it's like, swing through the ball, not at the ball, Pax. Like, stop swinging at the ball, swing through it, So like it's a constant kind of thing. And then they continue to grow up. And then at some point, they become drivers. And you trust them to learn all the things that you taught them, that they're going to return the same way that they left and not hit anything. Abigail? The house included, Abigail. But you're trusting them. And then at some point, you go on college visits. Or you go to the Army recruiter, or they start pursuing maybe a trade, and you see them walk across the stage. And then you drop them off at college. Being a parent especially the first few years, is probably the most thankless job ever. And it's also a job that your children can never repay you, but you so willingly do it again and again and again. Jesus is saying true greatness is serving those who can never repay you. But isn't that the gospel? Jesus left perfection for you. He lived the life that you could never live, this life of being completely perfect, because he knew what he had to do. He had to lay down his life so that you can have a relationship with God. He became, it's a theological term, he became the atoning sacrifice for you and for me. He humbled himself, left perfection. Even though he knew that we're going to deny it, we're going to reject it, we're going to push him away, but he still willingly did it. He is the very definition of greatness. The Apostle Paul says this in Philippians chapter 2. He says, though he was God, talking about Jesus, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born a human being. When he appeared in human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on a cross. Jesus died for you. And he never asked you to do something he's not been willing to do it himself. So, what does this mean? Today, in our everyday life, what does this mean? We can hear a message like this and walk away and be like, all right, Pastor, I guess I have to humble myself and be good. I don't know what that looks like tomorrow when I'm at school, or tomorrow when I'm at work, or tonight when I'm watching TV. I don't know what that looks like. So what am I supposed to do? What's the takeaway? So if you've crossed that line of faith, you have something that you can do every day. You can share the good news of Jesus every day. Think of your sphere of influence. The people you see every day or every other day. Maybe you really like donuts and you like Casey's. You have a clerk there that knows you by name. I'm not there enough that they know me by name, but it's getting close. It's getting weird. But like, you have an opportunity to share Jesus with your sphere of influence, to share Jesus with people you come into contact with, including your own kids. Our American culture is very big on outsourcing everything. If we're not good at a certain sport, we find somebody who can coach our kids. If we're not good in math, we outsource it to the school or someone who can help them with it. And the same is true when it comes to Jesus. We outsource Jesus to the church. What would it look like if you began to teach your kids and your grandkids who Jesus is? What about if we serve the needy, partnering with groups in our city to help those? Next week, we have Stuff the Truck. And what if we can help the community and partner with our city in ways to serve those who are less fortunate, to love those who feel unloved, to look past yourself and reach out to those who need to be loved? And I think oftentimes the one group of people that are probably the least thought of are nursing home. People who live in nursing home. What would it look like if you showed up just to love on some people there? To teach people about Jesus, and even kids. Here at Trinity on 5th, summer is coming, and we like to give our teachers some breaks during the summertime. So maybe you could help in that way. And I know that there's an adage that says, well, I've paid my dues. I don't want to do that again. But what would it look like, and how differently would it feel for you if you look at kids ministry as that you had a vital impact in a child's walk with Jesus? You see, the road that with Jesus is humbling yourself, and is to think of yourself less and to love others. When I was in college, a professor once told me this, and it stuck with me forever. Being humble is not thinking of yourself as less than, meaning that you're not good enough. Being humble is just thinking of yourself less. Now, I may not be the first pick in the NBA draft. A couple weeks ago, that was supposed to be funny. A couple weeks ago, as a pity laugh, by the way, but a couple weeks ago, I was with my father-in-law, and I've been around the Crawleys, that's my in-laws, since I was 18. And I told Dick at the beginning, when I was 18, when we were hanging out, that I want to be in the NBA, whatever. And he's like, all right, we're going to do it. And so it'd be great. And now that I'm 43, he's like, I don't think you're going to do it. I'm like, I don't think so either. But I may not be the first pick in the NBA draft. I may not be significant in the eyes of the world, but I'm okay with that because I serve Jesus, and that's where my significance is found. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you for you. Thank you for your goodness, and thank you for your love. God, I pray that when people see us, they don't see someone that's trying to win over people. What they see is you in us. God, I pray that we have a pursuit of greatness and this desire to do things with excellence that has everything to do with you and nothing to do with ourselves. Help us to look for ways to serve others around us in our sphere of influence, as well as maybe even people who aren't in that influence. Help us to lay down our life. Jesus, thank you for that goodness. Thank you that you are the very definition of greatness, that you left perfection for us, that you died on a cross for us so that we can be in a relationship with you, not just after we pass away, but also even today, that for the rest of our life, for all eternity, we can be with you. Thank you that you are great. So God, I pray that when we leave here this morning, that we're changed by you. We're changed by the gospel. That we look at today as the first day of our new life, a life that is changed. In your name we pray, Jesus. Amen.
If it's bandaging the broken or washing filthy feet, oh, here I am, Lord, send me. If it's loving one another, even when we don't agree, here I am, Lord, send me.
serve you just the same. Here I am, Lord, send me on the mountain or the valley. I will choose to praise. Here I am, Lord, send me. If I'm known by how I love, let my life reflect how much I love you. I love you. And before you even ask, oh, my answer will be yes, 'cause I love you. I love you.
And if the truth cuts like an arrow, I will say it anyway.
'Cause here I am, Lord, send me.
And if it means that they'll reject me, Lord, I will still obey. Oh, here I am, Lord,
Send me.
and if I'm known by how I love, let my life reflect how much I love you. Lord, I love you.
And before you even ask, oh, my answer will be yes, 'cause I love you. I love you. When I'm standing in your glory, I'll be glad I chose to say, here I am, Lord, send me. Well done, good and faithful, I live to hear you say, here I am, Lord, send me. Here I am, Lord, send me. Here I am, Lord, send me. If I'm known by how I love, let my life reflect how much I love you. I love you. And before you even ask, Lord, my answer will be yes, because I love you. I love you.
If I'm known by how I love, let my life reflect how much I love you. I love you. And before you even ask, oh, my answer will be yes, 'cause I love you. Lord, I love you.
Amen. You know, here at Trinity on Fifth, we have a lot of ways that you can serve. Well, I talked about two of them today in the announcements with Stuff the Chuck and VBS. But what I heard Jeremy say today, and what I read that Jesus said in the scriptures, it goes beyond all of that. It's more like that song. It's about waking up every morning and saying, here I am, Lord, send me. Who do you have for me to serve today? Who is it? So this week, let's do that. Let's pray that our eyes will be opened to the needs that are right in front of us. Sometimes right in our house. To the people that He wants us to serve that are right there on our path. for the people that need to know about him and can see him through the way that we treat them. So how to be the greatest? Be the servant of all. Pastor Jeremy's going to be out at the Welcome Center. There's a good chance that maybe you haven't had a chance to meet you and he hasn't had a chance to meet you. So stop out there today and say good morning to him. If this is your place and you brought an offering, there's boxes by the door to drop that in. Keep your eyes open this week. Be the servant of all. Have a great one.